It's often hard for students to find an oral presentation topic that not only interests you, but is also current enough, unique, and that the rest of the cohort isn't doing. That's why at the start of each year, we publish a massive blog post full of heaps of new ideas, new oral presentation topics for you to get that head start. Today we'll be covering some broad, ongoing issues that have been present in the Australian media recently. For each of the wider topics we are going to discuss today, there are more specific debates that I'd really recommend you sinking your teeth into. The most engaging presentations are the ones that usually tackle really specific issues because it really allows you to go into detail and explore the issue at hand. Let's dive into our first broad topic, climate change. The first topic is a Green New Deal. Originally, the New Deal was a bunch of economic reforms that re-stimulated the economy back into action after the Great Depression. The Green New Deal is a bunch of policies that combine this economic approach with the need to fight the climate crisis. It was first brought before the United States Congress in late 2018, but was ultimately voted down. It called for a 10-year transformation of the economy to provide green jobs, transition to renewable, zero-emission energy sources, and eliminate pollution across sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, and transport. Although global warming is a phenomenon generally accepted across both sides of politics, the current government is wary of tackling radical action against climate change due to Australia's huge economic reliance on natural resources such as coal, gas, and iron ore. As such, calls have arisen for politicians to take action in transforming our economy to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels and strengthen our renewable energy offerings. Some questions to get you thinking are, is this something we need to adopt in Australia? Is now the best time for this conversation, given the political climate and the fact that we've had our worst bushfires ever? And what exactly are the options? That's for you to think about. The next potential climate change topic is young people on strike. 2019 saw the emergence of the School Strike for the Climate, an international movement of students skipping school to demonstrate and demand action on climate change. It took off after Greta Thunberg, a now infamous Swedish schoolgirl, began protesting outside the Swedish parliament in late 2018. It sparked widespread discussion on young people, education, and the merits of striking. Scott Morrison was drawn into the discussion, stating that he doesn't want our children to have anxieties about these issues, while defending his government's track record on renewable energy investment. It's likely that a number of you have actually taken part in these massive protests. So the questions here are, should young people like you be worrying about these issues at all? Are you missing out on crucial years of education by taking to the streets? And is what they're saying really unreasonable at all? Moving on to social equity, Newstart. Newstart is Australia's income support for those aged 22 to 64 who are unemployed. Though a form of social security, it's fallen behind in terms of how much economic security it can provide recently, with years of no real increases. That is, increases which offset inflation. Basically, things are getting more expensive, and even if Newstart increases, it doesn't actually give you more purchasing power in reality. So, ideas to base your contention off are, is it time to increase Newstart? There was some discussion about the holiday period being particularly expensive, but should an increase be permanent? How hard is it to get a job in today's economy? And are the payments enough to live on if you don't have a job? First Nations Justice. Voice was the Australian National Dictionary Centre's Word of the Year in 2019, in the context of Indigenous representation in the Australian Parliament. A voice to Parliament would ensure Indigenous input into laws and policies on issues affecting First Nations communities, and has been called for by activists for some time now. Over the past few months, we've seen devastating bushfires all over the country, and many Indigenous leaders have explained how 40,000-year-old Aboriginal bushfire knowledge could have prevented this situation in the first place. With that in mind, many have advocated the potential benefits for Australia as a whole in having a real Indigenous voice in parliaments across the country. So, how does this tie into, is this distinct from other issues such as constitutional recognition? Why haven't we seen a lot of progress or consensus on these issues? What might it mean for these communities to be able to make autonomous decisions? Health. Mental health. 2019 also saw some other new developments in the conversation around mental health in Australia. A report found that mental health concerns are getting more widespread among young people, while government investment doesn't really seem to be effective. Meanwhile, we're also seeing progress on destigmatizing mental health issues within sport. Overseas, athletes such as Paul Merson and Stan Collymore have shared stories of their mental health battles, while Cricket Australia looks into ways of creating more supportive environments for their players. How can we streamline the message around mental health or the relevant support networks? What solutions haven't we tried yet? And how might the discussion around this shift in the next decade? What are the implications if we don't address these issues? Now moving into education. Teaching as a decreasingly popular profession. Australian teachers have been struggling with increasingly difficult jobs and flatlining pay in recent years, and teachers' unions haven't been able to successfully find a solution to offset these concerns. Tertiary students are now turning away from pursuing a career in education, and there could be many reasons as to why. With enrolments in education courses decreasing, it's no wonder that many universities have lowered the bar for admission. But at what cost? In 2019, controversy arose over students with much lower than average ATARs being admitted into a variety of universities, and questions were raised about the standard of the people we're putting in classrooms across the country. What does this mean for the future of education? In what ways do you as a student feel the impacts? And what could be some solutions? Perhaps both from a teacher's point of view, but also from a student-centric viewpoint. This is only a handful and just a brief overview of the topics we've explored in our blog post. I'd highly recommend you head on over there to have a full debrief of all the topics that we've analysed and presented for you. With the topics, we've linked to relevant articles and resources to help you along your way in terms of preparing for your oral presentation. Next week, I'll be delving more into the SAC side of things, so how to prepare for your oral presentation SAC, but also if you're super keen on getting extra help, then you can pre-order my How to Write a Killer Oral Presentation ebook, which will be coming out on January the 28th. If you didn't know, I was super shy when I was in high school, hated presenting in front of the classroom, got the shakes, super nervous, but I made a decision that I would be good at oral presentation in year 12, and I got full marks in my oral presentation. So for somebody who was not naturally gifted in terms of public speaking, just, never really had any training or, never went to debates at school, whatnot, I honestly feel like I've got a lot of tips that I could offer you that could help you really score well in this SAC. So head on over there to check that out. And otherwise, I wanted to also thank you, Mark, for writing up the blog post and collating his knowledge on these topics. You are awesome, and thank you so much for helping all the students who are watching this video out there. Hope you guys found value in this video, and see you guys next week.